Did you get the thing?
Yes, I got the thing.
Feed the dog?
Yes, I fed the dog.
Did you download the episode?
Yes, I downloaded the episode. What's up with the questions? Can we just go, please?
Permit me here and now to promise as a good comrade and a fellow artist that I will not report any of this, whatever it is, to the police.
Welcome to Abandoned Albums, the documentary podcast. Each week, our intrepid group of researchers and archivists sift through the album crates of the world, finding those records that may have been lost over time. Our team also seeks out up-and-coming artists with work we feel you should know about. When we're lucky enough, the artists swing by Thunderlove Studio to chat with our hosts Keith R. Higgins and Jeff Calhoun about those albums and their careers as a whole. Sit back, relax, and thank you for joining us.
Tell me something, give me truth, 'cause I can't play it cool for another rainy day. It's alright to be afraid. Don't panic, just breathe. Just be here with me. Don't panic, just breathe. Just be here with me. Time is a killer. Love is a beast.
In the unforgiving terrain of the music industry, one must be prepared to wage a relentless battle for visibility and audibility. Yet, in the saga of strife, Donny Dykowsky emerges as a seasoned combatant. The early 2000s bore witness to Donny's heroic struggle for existence. It was a real life-and-death duel that he won. During the arduous period of convalescence, ensconced in isolation, he embarked on the audacious endeavor of assembling the band that would become Chesterwhite. Their debut album drew comparisons to luminaries like David Bowie and T-Rex. Simultaneously, Donny was cultivating a sterling reputation behind the scenes. The astonishing journey of singer, songwriter, and producer Donny Dykowsky unfolds in a sequence of sonic metamorphoses, a testament to his indomitable spirit. Having weathered the crucible of cancer, endured tumultuous relationships, and embraced the mantle of fatherhood, Donny emerges on the other side. His latest offering, the eponymous EP Mirrors on the Moon, balances precariously on the precipice of psych rock and harmonious Americana, and evokes the spectral echoes of the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, with a subtle infusion of Leon Russell for good measure. Donny recently stopped by Thunderlove Studio to have a chat with Keith. Here's their conversation.
It's just the normal noises in here.
I'm here now. I have it's often said in a studio, and you can see I've got a bit of a production studio behind me, that the best mic to use is often the closest one to you. So today I have a pencil mic. and that's
Awesome.
fun.
I'm hearing a back echo.
You're cutting in and out too, but I can try to not.
That's probably because I fuck around and I dick around on my mic. I'll just try to stay closer to the mic and not try to move as much. Is this better?
Yes, you sound great. You look great too.
Thank you.
If you saw me yesterday, I was actually wearing the same thing, just a black and white flannel and like a black and white shirt. So that would have been, I got my days mixed up.
I love wearing this t-shirt. It says introverted, but willing to talk about otters. Very true.
Is that true? My daughter, she's 9. She loves otters. She wants a pet otter.
I like watching them. If you've heard them, they sound awful.
I actually have heard them. I sampled some otter sounds. A sound designer, a friend of mine, we were working on an otter adjacent project that needed to have like authentic otter sounds. See, I don't just make records, Keith. I also help, filmmakers and brands tell stories with music and sound design. And I'm grateful for that. But sometimes you're recording otter sounds.
It's just rare that you hear the phrase otter adjacent.
Yeah.
Never heard it before.
Well, that's how I'm identifying these days.
Donny, thank you so much for coming on. We got a lot to talk about.
I guess so. I mean, but I'll let you lead the way. I'm an open book.
Alrighty. Let's start first with your upbringing and your influences. Now, you grew up in outside of the city suburbs. I'm guessing Westchester or Jersey.
Actually, Rockland County, formative years out there.
Okay. Who were your musical influences? And there's a reason why I ask, and it'll be sussed out as we go through the conversation.
My uncle David was my earliest musical influence, and he turned me on to the right things at an early age. I grew up in a house where my parents listened to a lot of music that was not popular. We had a handful of albums that were just kind of laying around the house, and I could just pull the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack or Steve Martin's Wild and Crazy Guy album, or Prince, Purple Rain. Like, these were the things that I was listening to until my uncle at an early age, he was like, here's Zeppelin 4. And at that point, it was just like I was into the rabbit hole, and he started exposing me to different Zeppelin albums as I was ready. Like, he wasn't that much older than I was, so he was kind of mentoring me through Led Zeppelin, and that was kind of the touchstone where everything else kind of came from.
Mm-hmm. Everyone has that person in their life, right? That music dealer.
Yeah, the music dealer. That's brilliant.
Yeah, the one that points you in the direction, gives you just a taste to keep you coming back for more.
That's brilliant. That's so true. You bring up an interesting point, and I'm sorry if this is turning into a little bit of a therapy session, but you've sparked 2 memories for me. My sister, my 13th birthday, she handed me The Wall. Uh-huh. And she said, you might not like this now, but one day you will, which I thought was really cool. Especially since her taste in music is extremely questionable these days. But,
well, all right. I want to unpack that one.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, it really hit. And I had a friend, Mark, at around the same time, like junior high, that he was just like wise beyond his years. He was like almost a guru to our friend group, and he was turning us on to like Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd and the Grateful Dead, before we had the context to understand that it was groundbreaking.
And then you go, if I understand your history correctly, you go right into playing with jam bands.
Correct. Yes. When I was 15, I auditioned for a band that was pretty popular in the area. Like, they were kind of a regional touring band, probably 10 years my senior, and they they couldn't find a bass player, and that was my main instrument. And I auditioned for them because I was friends with a brother of one of the bandmates, and it clicked. And these guys became like my mentors and teachers, and they taught me everything about how to smoke cigarettes to satisfy a woman, which I'm still working on. How to roll a joint.
Wait a second. Are those two separate thoughts? How to smoke a cigarette and how to satisfy a woman? Or was it how to smoke a cigarette and satisfy a woman? Smoke a cigarette in such a way that it satisfies a woman.
I'll leave that to you to decide. But I'm still working on it.
We all are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth. But that kind of kicked off what I liked about that, the jam band. I mean, these guys had interesting songs, but what was cool is that they weren't afraid to get off the grid. And I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. And like the older I get, the more that's the space that I want to play in, is when you're playing live. It's okay to, drift from the song structure and let the moment take you into an interesting place where you and the audience together are kind of, walking that edge of a knife. Are they going to find their way back to the one? Are they going to find their way back to the head of the song? Or are they going to hit us with the chorus? Or where's this jam going to take us? I love when those moments happen. But at the end of the day, I think you still need a good song for it to make sense.
That's the core of everything, a good song, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're around the same age. The jam band thing in New York City was what? Wetlands. It was what? Spin Doctors, Blues Traveler.
That's right.
Era,
that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. I mean, I remember going to the Wetlands. I mean, playing the Wetlands, but the Wetlands, I caught the tail end of the Wetlands. And I loved it. I used to go to the Mondo Cane all the time to see bands. It was awesome. I mean, like you had a fake ID, and you just it didn't matter. You get mugged in Washington Square Park. All good. It was
all part of the fun.
All part of the fun. Buy oregano off of somebody.
Or catnip.
It was like the late 90s, the early aughts, I guess. Yeah, around that time.
And then you got ill.
True, yes.
Yes. That's, I mean, I don't want to pry, but was it really a year in the hospital? That sounds horrible.
It was actually 5 years of like trying to, find some kind of cure for the cancer that I had. It was archaic because, I was young when I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was around 20 years old and just trying to start my life. And it wasn't, I mean, I had chemotherapies that just didn't work right, that just brought my lung function down to like 10%. They said it was like breathing through a mixing straw. And then I was on steroids for over a year, which completely fucked with my like body chemistry and my I mean, you can't live a normal life when you're high on steroids. And I was on prednisone, which when you're on 60 milligrams a day, it feels like you're tripping on mushrooms. It's amazing. But then once you are weaned off of it and your body's not producing any serotonin for a year plus, you're just in the worst depression that you can imagine. So this was all before I had a stem cell transplant and lived in the hospital for a year. But you grasp for straws. Like my family was trying to, I'll keep this brief, but my family was trying everything so I wouldn't have to go through a stem cell transplant. And they actually connected me with a rabbi that he turned out to be a charlatan. And he performed an exorcism on me. And I didn't know what was happening because he didn't speak English. I would meet this guy every day, every morning at like 6 a.m. and we'd sneak into these like ritual baths and he'd hold me underwater like a baptism, say a prayer. And then I'd meet him the next day. And all of this was kind of coming to a head when I was in his garden apartment, sitting there in a lawn chair, tied to it with telephone cord. And there was a guy next to me that was just sitting in another lawn chair, untied. And I look over to him and I'm like, hi, I'm Donny. Why are you here? Why are you working with this, like, this healer, so to speak? And he goes, I'm trying to quit smoking cigarettes. And I said, do you know why I'm here? And he says, yeah, he says you're filled with demons. So
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
It's funny. And with in hindsight and perspective, it's hilarious. And then I kind of realized then that, I have to just kind of trust the doctors and kind of muscle through whatever life experience is being thrown at me. And thankfully it worked. So but I'm open to talking about it now, but at the time, I was running from a fire as soon as I left the hospital, and I couldn't even, walk. I mean, my blood wouldn't clot when you have a stem cell transplant. I was my own donor. They kill you, your body levels, your blood levels, everything it's like zero. Like you're so low, your blood won't clot, and you're held together by, like just a Christmas tree of intravenous medications, and you have ports in your body so they can just tap into main arteries because your veins are so dry. There's no whites in your eyes and you're totally emaciated. And then once they inject you with your stem cells, then it's a whole host of other problems, like your body trying to regenerate, 106 fevers, seizures. It was a fucking nightmare. So then when I was out of it, like within 2 months, not a hair on my body, no eyebrows, eyelashes, or anything, I'm doing every open mic from New York, Philly, Boston in a circuit until I put together my next band, which kind of opened up all the opportunities that came afterwards.
I want to back up just a couple of beats. You were your own donor for stem cell.
Yes.
I have never heard of that. I'm only familiar with the more controversial aspect of it. So I've never heard of such a thing as that. How does that work? Well,
there are throughout the process of the chemotherapies, even before the stem cell transplant, I was taking a drug called Neupogen that was boosting my white blood cells. And when I was doing the ice treatments, which is a type of chemotherapy, which kept me in a hospital for the better part of a year, they harvest your white blood cells after they kind of stimulate them to the point where you can run through a dialysis, and they collect them in like a syringe. And then it was like some unassuming day in February when they're like, okay, well, you can consider this your next birthday, and they inject you with your stem cells after your body's been like totally, brought down to like zero. So yeah, that was my experience with stem cells, not like, from a placenta or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're recovered. That
said, if you wanted to fly down to Panama and get some placenta juice or afterbirth and just try to, I'm open to it. I hear it's great. Joe Rogan says it's great.
I'm going to take a hard pass on that one.
Yeah.
So you get better, you do your open mic, and then you form. Now there's a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Is it Chesterwhite or is it Chesterwhite and his orchestra?
It's Chesterwhite. Chesterwhite and his orchestra was the name of the album. And that was kind of the band that opened doors for me. Like it was fun. It was great. It was kind of, very like T-Rex, Bowie inspired. Yep. And, I mean, I went out, I didn't really want people to know like the fucking heavy life experience that I just come from. So it was fun to kind of wear that mask of a different character and kind of jump on stage like we were Clockwork Orange characters, and it was fun. We got to play some really cool gigs, and it opened the door for me to get into like scoring a picture.
the drum sound on that record is really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. That's Seth Mutal on drums, who, I mean, I adored him. He was just a monster. And Don Rodenbach, he recorded that album at Eric Bazillion's studio from the Hooters out in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, St. David's, Pennsylvania. This guy famously would just sit at the controls, taking bat hits, and I'll never forget one thing that he said that I could never shake was, well, I mean, he would always say things like, "I'm just going to raise this a cunt hair."
Oh God. I love it.
Yeah, let's just, tweak this a cunt hair.
Yeah.
And I just, it's funny because once I started like diving deeper into recording studios for media, the old school engineers would still say that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like a technical term, but his claim to fame was working with not only the Hooters, but Echo and the Bunnymen. You know, he had a thing, and I'm, yeah. Well, anyway, I'm really proud of that record, and it was very cool. I'm grateful that it happened.
I hear some rockabilly in there. I hear definitely the glam, and I guess what we would now call classic rock. Yes.
I mean, I feel like, and like with one of my daughters now, I have twin daughters, they're 9. They love T-Rex and Bowie, but if you really just like if you understand that so much of this is built off the backbone of rock and roll, like it leads you to things like rockabilly, like Little Richard and Elvis and, Buddy Holly. And so it's so fun to explore that. And I loved the Stray Cats anyway. I think what they did is totally justice to the era.
Yep.
I mean, I truly love the history of rock and roll. So rockabilly's fun. I've got some new tunes that kind of thread that line also of rockabilly stuff. So hope to turn you onto it soon.
I do want to ask you about one particular song from that Chesterwhite record, and that's Love Song. And I'm going to read the lyrics to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to read the lyrics to you because it really grabbed me. It's right out of the gate. She stabbed me with a kitchen knife. I was sleeping. She was up all night. She didn't even want me alive, but she loves me, and that's all right. I think, did we date the same woman?
I think we all have dated the same woman. That's all true.
She was up all night. She don't even want me alive, but she loves me and that's alright. I'm out of town and she leaves me there. I can't explain, but I loved her then. She don't hear a word
You got to write about what you know. And I literally like came out of one fire in a hospital bed and I went right into a toxic relationship with somebody with a drug and alcohol problem, which, and you can't argue with a 6-pack. So I tried. I don't think I'm a bad guy. And I really tried to make it work, but yeah, those lyrics are true.
Wow. And it's funny when you're in an environment like that, you feel, or I have felt, trapped.
Yeah, 100%. She would say shit like, if you leave me, I'll kill myself. And you're like, oh no, that's terrible. We don't want that.
No. One of the things I like most about it is the songs are really taut. They're not elongated. They're not drawn out. They're for me, they're the perfect length of what they should be. You know, it's not 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It's 2 minutes and 4 seconds.
Yeah.
You're not dragging shit out that doesn't need to be dragged out.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I like that too. I mean, I you know, sometimes I say this with art often, is that you have to just let it you got to kick your feet up sometimes and just float downstream. Let the song take you where it wants to. If the song wants to be 2 minutes, let it be 2 minutes. You don't, what are you trying to say here? Take your ego out of it. Like on the new record, there's a song called Whiskey and Wine, which it's kind of a crowd pleaser. It's fun. But the first like time I recorded it, the first demos and the first time I tracked the band, it was over 6 minutes long because there's such an epic jam at the end, which for me, I'm like, oh, I love every theme and every motif, and I love the way we're all playing off each other. And then I'm like, nobody cares. And I sent it to my publicist and a radio promoter, and they're like, this is way too fucking long. I mean, this you got to trim the fat. And I'm like, do I? And I'm like, what am I trying to say here? And I'm like, lyrically, there's not much meat on the bone because I feel like it's succinct. The lyrics kind of tell everything I want cleanly. You know, maybe there is a lot of fat to be trimmed, and I was able to get it under 4 minutes, and I think it's much tighter now. There's way less fluff.
First comes darkness, then the light. A spark of energy in a wheel of time. We are souls delivered on high. So pour the whiskey and wine. I should have listened more. I should have danced. I'll look you in the eyes when I had the chance. We are souls delivered on high. So pour the whiskey and wine.
There's that song Get Lost, which is very T-Rex garagey, and that's 2 minutes ish.
Yeah,
because that's all it needs.
I think that's absolutely the best way to describe it. And I agree. I agree as well. You have to let things take you. I'm a writer as well, so you write. It starts at one place, and then it. This sounds really hippy dippy, and I know that.
I love it. I love it.
It takes on a life of its own, and it takes you somewhere else. I might have something in my head, or even an outline of where I want it to go. But once I start writing and injecting dialogue, it's all of a sudden, well, now I'm going over here to areas I didn't necessarily plan on going to. But you just embrace it and roll with it. It's exciting. It's liberating. It's fun. In a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, 100%. There's that book by Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, where he talks about channeling the muse, and you know, there's a certain respect that you need to have for that spirit of creativity that you're letting in to your sacred space. And yeah, I mean, you have to let the best idea win, and sometimes that means checking your ego and saying, I got it wrong. And I've been guilty too many times of, especially when I collaborate, I always want to collaborate with people. I feel like those parameters bring out the best in you. But oftentimes I always come back because if I'm bringing the song to the table and I don't feel they're elevating the idea, then and I'll try as hard as I can to make that happen. Sometimes it doesn't, and you got to just, push back and say, okay, no, this is the thread that we're following across the board, like in every discipline that I practice, for, producing art and music and whatnot. I'm always trying to find the best idea. But then there's also the argument that nothing's ever finished or perfect, and you just have to let it go.
Yep.
So,
People have said to me, it's like, and you may have gotten the same thing. You're a perfectionist. It's like, I'm not a perfectionist. Perfection is the goal. I'm pragmatic and intelligent enough to understand that's probably not an achievable goal, but that's what I'm striving for. But sometimes you can try to work yourself to perfection into paralysis.
100%. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
The mountain is a majestical place where you push your limits and you maximize your potential.
No, the mountain is a place where you party, man. Have fun. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, like those 80s movies.
Yeah, but we're not in a movie. I mean, we're going to get hurt.
You're not going to get hurt. For some reason, the rules are just different on the mountain.
The rules for what? Everything, dude. You've seen those 80s movies.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do with my hands? How do I ski?
Well, you're supposed to have poles.
You know what? Hold on to these guys for balance.
These are glass.
Yeah.
And don't break them, bitch.
What is this, a double black diamond?
I wish it was a triple black.
Dudes, let's shred.
The ski team.
Basically, it's the shell or the umbrella for all the creative work that I do goes through the ski team. And when a producer that I had worked with during the Chesterwhite years, he was also a record executive over at Universal and Motown, and he was always like kind of courting me one way or the other, and we just became close friends, and we still work together to this day. His name is Dan Strong. He started working at a production music company that was just building themselves out called Pulse, and they were doing a lot of record work for pop artists and like hip hop artists. And they wanted to make my next record, Chesterwhite's next record. And I'm like, okay, great. They're like, they had distribution with Sony, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great. And as soon as we got in there, it was, I was making records, and they were like, you know what, we're not making money with records. We want to lean more into the commercial production. Can you write on this? And I wrote on like a spot, a commercial. And in that moment, like, I mean, I went to a music school, yada, yada, cut my teeth, paid my dues. But, when you're on the road and you're playing dive bars and maybe a theater or doing a little tour or whatever, and you still are not able to pay your phone bill or even pay for, gas, hotels, and you do one commercial and it's as much money as you've been grinding for in 2 months, you're like, and there's nothing precious about it. I mean, sure, you're still giving every discipline 100%, sure. But all your skills are being used for this, for maybe a couple of days of production, and then you let it go and you're on to the next thing. It just felt good. It felt good to be appreciated for the talents that I had, being able to put those to good use, and to finally get like paid for it. Not to say that was, as you can see, I've never stopped making records.
Right.
Yeah. So I was with that company for 4+ years, writing for other artists, writing on commercials. And then I was freelance and just, my partner, Dan, Dan Strong is like his stage name. His real name is also kind of Baltic, Polish, Russian, like mine, where it ends in a ski. So the dub room at this company started calling us the ski team. And I'm like, oh, that's such a fun name. If I ever go, if I ever start my own shop or I go freelance, I'm just going to call it that. And that's exactly what I did.
What is sonic branding? I was intrigued by that.
It's a great question. So, I mean, it's basically the identity of a brand. You have visual logos that exist for everything. You can probably just imagine the American Express or Federal Express, or, pick a brand out of a hat, Toyota, Audi, they all have, visual components, but it's very valuable to have a sonic identity as well, because sound and music triggers your visual cortex faster than anything. You know, it triggers memories. It gives you what I call a ratatouille moment, where you're your most vivid and formative memories will come to the surface if the identity of a brand kind of if you're the target market and it reaches you in a particular way. How do you tell a story succinctly within 3 to 5 seconds? But there's also a bigger picture holistically. Not only is it an identity for a brand, like a logo that you would hear like the end of an Audi commercial, or, you know, Toyota or Honda have explored that, or Verizon, T-Mobile, any big brand. But how does it live within the ecosystem of the brand is also important. You go to a hotel, for example, and if you're at the hotel bar and they're just playing the equivalent of Muzak, you're going to be put off. But if and sure, you can easily, without much more money than getting a blanket license for Muzak, you can get a blanket license for ASCAP BMI artists, and you can play like soul music and just classic rock and pop music and whatever else that your audience really wants to hear. They don't want to hear some saccharine interpretation. Going down a rabbit hole here, but basically it's all holistically connected, and it should be. The identity of a branded experience, even if it is like, let's say you're coming to see my band. When we put on a live show, there's a liquid light projectionists, you know, everyone's kind of dressed in a particular way. You don't just want to see your neighbor performing. You want to feel like you're a part of an experience.
For sure.
So if you can do that, that's great. And for me, that's part of, you know, in a different sense, like the sonic branding of a band, or just the branding of a band. It's, but in a nutshell, it's the brand's identity in sound. There's a whole brand audit that goes into it. There's a competitor audit. You have to find out what works, what doesn't work. And there's a science behind it. There's a science why sound works. There's certain sounds that simulate different parts of your brain. And you want to telegraph that in the branding, or at least in a commercial branding sense. So I love geeking out on that. I do, because there are different ways you can tell stories. And if a brand misses the mark, it's obvious. All that said, the one thing that works is consistency over time. So you can have a shit branding for your company, but as long as it's consistent, it'll be effective, and people will have that Pavlovian response where they're like, "Oh, fuck, that's the brand," and you want the brand recall. I don't consciously bring that into making records. For me, making records is just part of my DNA, but it keeps me fresh in the studio. Yeah, I know I'm getting off track here, but I'm passionate about it.
We'll call it a mental health day treat. Self-care, right? Isn't that what people call it whenever they need an excuse to do whatever the fuck they want?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, of course you don't. Of course you don't. One chewy sugar tea, please.
All right, you can scan the code.
Why?
Because the code takes you to the app.
Got apps for everything, you know? Even though I'm already talking to the person that could just take my order right here, but I got to download an app, right? How about this? I have cash. You have tea. Why don't we just streamline things?
We don't take cash, though.
Yeah. How about cards? Take cards?
Yes.
Oh, great.
But there is a $10 minimum. There's no minimum on the app, though.
One of the other hats I wear, I have a podcast production company called MCS Media, which stands for Make Cool Shit Media. And you know, we had a show with last year called Legendize. It was hosted by DJ Marley Marl. And some of the guests that we had on this podcast were Naughty by Nature and Big Daddy Kane and DJ Premier and DJ Clark Kent, and it was awesome. It was like a hip hop history podcast that was formatted in 3 acts, not like a convenient, round table. My point is, audio content is it keeps me sane.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
All of this brings us to mirrors on the moon. Now,
Yes.
this is you are now the second moon band from New Jersey that I've interviewed this year.
Okay, what's the other one?
Above the Moon.
Oh, we should gig together.
So what made you want to get a band back together?
Well, before this band, I was making records I had my studio in Jersey City at the time, and I was working with a bunch of artists that would have these writing camps. And just for like music supervision purposes, it was important for me to always make records that were available to license easily. I was working with Stella Santana for a minute. That's Carlos's daughter. We were actually not only working in Jersey City, we were writing in LA, and was working with these artists called the Big Hair Girls, and that was very cool too. And this artist Lane Moore, who we have not launched these records, and they're some of the best records that I've done. But that led me to start a project with a writer in town that was called Blue Ox. And Blue Ox was, it's actually how I know Dana, the publicist, but it was just like a psych rock project that, just co-wrote and produced all the material. And we did some good gigs, and we had some moments and highlights. And I brought in my bass player to that project from Chesterwhite. He's still like one of the best musicians that I know, Freddie. And through that project, when it came time to put together a live band, I was able to get John Hummel, who played with Lady Gaga and a bunch of Zeppelin tributes. He's the closest thing to John Bonham I've ever heard. I got him to do some live gigs with us as well. So when things kind of fell apart with Blue Ox, I still had the rhythm section. I had all these songs that I wanted to put energy into, and I had a name that was haunting me because it was a cue that I had written for, it was a title of a cue I had written for a film called Broken Star. And I thought it was so peculiar because there really are mirrors on the moon that kind of calculate how far the moon drifts from the Earth every day. And I don't know, I just thought it was a cool name, and it kind of put me in an interesting place. What's in a name until you breathe life into it? And I just, it's so fun that just this summer is the first time we've started releasing records. And I use the term Mirrors on the Moon at its core is just me writing songs here in this production studio. But I know that those guys are going to elevate the performance. So I'm checking my ego, even though I can, bass was my first instrument. I want Freddie to do the bass. I don't know if there's a one right answer to why I needed to put this band together, but I wanted to get these songs out, and I thought it would just be weird to do it as Donny Dykowsky. I thought it would be more fun to do something else.
My co-host Jeff can't be here, but he did want me to submit a thought/question. So I'm going to read it verbatim.
Okay. Hi, Jeff.
Okay. I hear notes of Pink Floyd and some notes of Fish, but I'm a picky Fish fan. I don't love their long experimental jams, but appreciate their musicianship. What I hear is the quote great musician side of that influence. And the line you sing about drinking day-old wine created a visceral moment for me. I felt like I had a flash of flavor in my mouth that harkened back to a hangover. Hair of the dog moment where a bottle of red left out overnight seemed like a good idea. I don't think a listener has a moment like that if the songs aren't good. So there's not so much a question there is as a comment and acknowledgement that I felt like the song was really striking a chord.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled by that. Yes, Pink Floyd is one of my biggest influences. David Gilmour. If you could, yeah. The solo to Marigolds, I think right there, kind of, you can hear all the David Gilmour influence popping out. Fish isn't a band I really listen to much at all. I'm not, because frankly, although I appreciate their musicianship and I think Trey is a wonderful guitar player, their songs never hooked me. Although I've tried, trust me, coming up the years that I did, I wanted to, and I've been to so many shows and I've tried my heart out. The Dead, on the other hand, are a band that I find deeply fascinating because of the avant-garde nature of where they started and where they're willing to go with in their improvisations. But I mean, and their songs I think are quite good. So I'm a bit of a Deadhead when it comes to that. But yeah, Pink Floyd is in so many ways, as far as like production and just 70s era Floyd is like a sacred place for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I have 2 Pink Floyd albums that I can tolerate, and they are Animals and Wish You Were Here. I forget which.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are brilliant.
Brilliant.
Anything outside of that?
Yeah. Dark Side doesn't do it for you?
Not even when I was doing a lot of drugs.
I'm high as a kite right now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Have you heard the controversy about Roger Waters redoing?
I tried to muscle listening through a couple of tracks, but it doesn't hit for me at all. It doesn't hit because there was such a magic in on those records, not just in the songwriting, in how they were crafted in the studio. I've heard it before, like where Radiohead, they will record, the canvas is the studio for the painting, and then they will try to recreate that live in many ways. I mean, OK Computer for me was one of those albums that kind of changed my life. Like Dark Side, I would say, in that I didn't know exactly where they were going. It was progressive in the right ways. And I mean, progressive rock has a sweet spot for me as well. Like, I'm not chasing that. I feel like if you listen close enough, you can probably hear influences of all those things.
I'll tell you what I hear.
Yeah.
I hear, obviously, there's that Laurel Canyon, Southern California blues vibe to it, but I hear Leon Russell.
Ooh, I like that.
I was surprised to hear the references to Pink Floyd and some of these other things. I'm like, I wasn't picking up on that. I don't know. I heard more of that in particular. Well, your sonic aesthetic to it. I thought resembled more of that for me.
I take it. I will take it. I mean, Whiskey and Wine is definitely an outlier in my canon of songs, if you will. I'd never written or released anything that was that alt country Americana, if you will. But where it goes once the beat drops is someplace wildly different. It goes into a jam space, and it gets a little progressive in that all of a sudden there's a huge riff that just kind of works its way backwards in a minor scale that pulls you back to the structure of the song. It's a bit progressive, and then the themes all kind of return, but there's also 3-part harmonies that are holding it together. And it's I mean, people really like that song for whatever reason. It's a fun one live.
Yeah.
But also live, we play Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and we play like Court of the Crimson King, and plenty of Zeppelin songs that are played live just because, and like In the Light is something that we've been playing, and Down by the Seaside, and of course No Quarter, but No Quarter not from the record, from the Song Remains the Same, not the CD, but from the album before Jimmy Page kind of muddled what the solo was. It's my favorite Jimmy Page solo, and I love being able to play that as close as possible. And same with Shine On, to be able to do that song justice is just, it's like a bucket list for me. Yeah, but to go back to what Jeff was saying before about the wine in Waking Up.
Yeah.
There's another song that's just over 2 minutes. Doesn't really need much more.
There's a reference to Alan White.
Oh, Alan Watts.
Alan Watts. Not the guy from Yes.
Not the guy from Yes, which I wish there were a reference to Alan White. Great call.
But Alan Watts, I had to look him up, and I'm like, I still don't know. What's that about?
Whiskey and wine, for me, just kind of, it resonates as almost like Alan Watts type philosophy. And, you know, he has a theory that, and I think it's so true. It's like you think of life as a song, and the point of life isn't to get to the end as quickly as possible. It's to dance your way through it.
Mm-hmm.
So in many regards, the spirit of the song is there's hints of regret. I mean, the song basically starts with a big bang, and then you should appreciate the fact that we are conscious in this moment, or at least this is the way I interpret the song. And with that, you know, figuratively speaking, you should drink the whiskey and wine to be present in the moment. And then there's the next line, the next verse, which kind of implies regret in that you should have listened more, you should have danced. Again, it brings you back to the hook where you should have just be in that present moment. So for me, that speaks to the spirit of Alan Watts' philosophy in that we're all chasing, you know, happiness and joy, and oftentimes it's just about rooting yourself in the present. And also the song Waking Up kind of brings you full circle to that same theme with the primordial sound of the universe, Om, which is the hook, basically, is repeating that.
Waking up, I can hear a sign of life echo from the light in the room. Grab a cup, taste the day-old wine, stories from the vine that bloom too soon. Why linger on? The moment is never gone. Afternoon, shadows standing tall like paintings on the wall that play pretend.
that song is also just about rooting yourself in the present and how the moment is never gone. And I talk about how time is a wheel in Whiskey and Wine, and then if that is a truth in this EP and you come to the end with Waking Up, the moment is never gone. The moment is always here. So all of your past experiences, life in my fantasy in this EP isn't linear. And yeah, so I'm sorry to get a little hippie on you, like we've done.
You can't control really anything that's behind us or in front of us. You just have to be present. It's all about being present. So
when I got turned on to Alan Watts, it was like 10 years ago, and I was having a coffee with a friend of mine, and he's like, I'm going to change your life right now, and I'm going to turn you on to a book. And it absolutely did change my life. I had never heard a philosopher. I mean, because you can listen to his lectures on basically anywhere now. You could find them on Spotify, or they've been made into podcasts and stuff. And they are the trippiest things because they make sense. But he's so poetic and enthusiastic, and in the way he's, building an imagery around, just whether it evolution or humanity or civilization or just being present in the moment, that it's exciting because you have to, as a writer, you can write about what you can only write about what you know. I mean, honestly, I mean, you can I think stretch, and you can write science fiction, if you will, or fantasy or romance. It doesn't mean you have to be the best lover to write a romance novel or whatnot. But I think you have to have some kind of ground. There needs to be some truth in there for you to, as in the performance of on a record. Like, you don't want things quantized till all the life is sucked out of it. You want there to be some wiggle room in certain things, and breaks in the voice, or things that might be slightly off, because that's the good stuff.
That adds the humanity to it.
Yeah, and that humanity will resonate with a listener or a reader, or even in writing, I love when the writer breaks the rules and run on sentences and dashes and things that give you a sense of urgency, and that play with time. And that's what we do in music. Is you are, in music, life is a song. You have your beginning, your middle, your end, your golden mean moment of probably where the bridge is.
Right.
The bridge of a song is the golden mean realized in time. I'm waxing poetic right now, and I'm kind of getting off of topic, but
Sorry.
I think you know what I'm trying to say. It's fun playing with time.
What are your thoughts on the LP as an art form? I was pleased to see that you released the EP. And the two songs, one in June, one in July. I believe in the constant output of product, for lack of a better phrase. I think it's important, rather than that 18 to 24 month album cycle that seems to still exist for some reason.
Yeah.
There are some artists that are really still focused on that, and I think there's room for that. But to stay fresh and relevant, and in my mind, I think you got to keep putting product out. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
I like to hear you say that, because I don't think anybody knows. I in the old days, it was all about making an album, and if Dana didn't urge me to put out an EP rather than a single, I probably would have put out 3 singles and given, had more content for the next few months. But she's like, if anyone's really going to review these, they want to know a little more about what's behind the artist, not just a single. Yep. So I thought it was the right move, and I don't know what it'll be next. Maybe it'll be a single, maybe it'll be 3, but the songs are there. I've got a lot of songs tracked that just need to be, focused and put together and released. But yeah, I don't know. I of your, going back to early rock and roll, it was all about singles, B-sides, and who knows? Maybe the album will just be the collection of tunes over a year put into an album, and then I can move on from that.
And I think that's a perfect way to look at it. I mean, it's a great market, right? You could print produce a vinyl album with everything that,
Yeah.
There's no right way. And that's one of the exciting things about it right now. I don't think there's really any right way. And I don't really think there's any kind of wrong way.
Keith, I need to have you in my life as a consultant, as a Sherpa, because again, to use the analogies of kicking your feet and up and floating downstream. I mean, I'm in so many ways doing that with this project. I'm grateful that it has the momentum in streams that it does on Spotify. I'm grateful that the video for Whiskey and Wine in 3 short days has thousands of views. I'm grateful for that. So people are listening, and maybe when we chat next, it'll be a different animal. But for right now, I'm grateful that people like the tunes.
They're great. They're great fucking tunes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Where are you playing live?
Yeah, that's the thing, is we've done a couple of festivals. Most recently we have done the Red Gables Festival 3-day event out in Red Bank, but I don't have a booking agent for this band. And the who I have in keys, Dave Archer, he plays with Uni and the Urchins. They're kind of on Sean Lennon's label. It's Sean Lennon's girlfriend's band. They were in Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger together, and now they the lines bleed between Claypool Lennon Delirium and that. So he's always playing and John's always on the road, and I don't want to compromise what that is. In short, there's nothing on the table yet as far as gigs, so I'm focusing on just records and videos. But trust me when I say I need to play live. The last gig we played, we sold out. We sold out the entire spot. It was like a 200 capacity place, and it was nice that we sold it out. But I'm hoping that this album or this EP opens the right doors where we can get back on track with a proper booking agent to handle schedules, and we can get play gigs that make sense.
Okay.
But that said, I will, given my history, I'll play anywhere with a guitar.
I've taken up way too much of your time. I appreciate it. I love the new record.
Thank you, Keith.
I'm really glad Dana connected with me about this, because I'm excited.
Me too.
Your music is right in my wheelhouse.
Thank you. And I'm grateful to that that you just took the time to speak with me, because I feel like I'm not I don't know. I feel like an outlier in this space now. With, sure, I'm producing and writing records, but I also, it's my day job to make music, and I don't know. It's I'm grateful for all of it, and I'm grateful for the time you're giving me, even though I don't have a gig on the table at the moment, a live show forthcoming.
And you're not alone. Chad Fisher, Matt Mahaffey are 2 that immediately popped to mind. They're
maybe you should connect all of us and we should do a show.
That's not a bad idea, Donnie. That's not a bad idea.
See, we're on it.
I'm going to chew on that one.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad idea at all. Listen, Donnie, thanks again, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith. Much love.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.
A big thank you goes out to Donny for making the time to chat with us. Extra special thanks to Dana Gordon for putting it all together.
This episode of Abandoned Albums was written and produced by Keith R. Higgins. The show was recorded at Thunder Love Studios, where it was engineered by
Daphne Miller,
with help from
John Thomas.
Abandoned Albums was edited by
Mike Hunt.
The songs you heard during this podcast were Don't Panic by Mirrors on the Moon, as well as Kill This Town and Love Song by Chesterwhite. You also heard Whiskey and Wine, Marigolds, and Waking Up by Mirrors on the Moon. You can stream both Chesterwhite and Mirrors on the Moon wherever you stream your favorite music. You'll find links to all of Donny's work, and those things referenced during the show, in the show notes section. Please remember to support independent artists.
Original music by Mike Pellegrino.
Our theme song is All I Want by Pete Belasco. In the opening of the show, the songs you heard were Livin' in a Dream by Archangels, Think Too Hard by Sid Straw, and Stronger Than Love by James Carr.
If you like what you've heard, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating. It really does help. Thanks for listening.
Grazie. Daily Leaf. Rob Janicki. Mike Pellegrino. Therina Vella. Ronnie Barnett. S.W. Loudon. Michael Janicki. Peyton Janicki. And our executive producer,
Rufus Thunderwolf.
Abandoned Albums receives funding from Kramerica Industries. Protect what you value. Kramerica Industries, made in America by Americans, mostly, and headquartered in America. Kramerica.com.
And now, until we meet again next time, I remain as always obediently yours.
Abandoned Albums is a production of Paw Print Media.